everybody. Welcome back to the basketball edition of the Huddle. I'm Ruth Lang here with sports editor Mike Brown, and we're going to start off this week's take with our highlights of the West Branch girls in their win over Niles. They started out their tournament home opener with they really just kind of beat the Niles team there, 70-18 on Monday night.
They really did, Ruth. And again, this time of year in the tournament trail, good teams find ways to take out teams that maybe aren't as good, and that was probably the case on Monday night. Melinda Trimmer for West Branch had another big game, and the supporting cast also had a big game. So, they advance on in the tournament after that win.
Well, they used that opportunity. They worked in a lot of their players. The coach said that 10 out of 15 girls who played that night saw some points. So that's a good way to, even though it was kind of a big, hard loss for Niles, that was a good way to get some extra practice in for the West Branch girls.
Right, and you always want to build depth. Coaches love depth, and that's the kind of game where you can get a lot of players in, keep everybody happy too. So,
The Western Reserve girls took the Inter-Tri-County League title after a victory over Sebring on Saturday. That was a rough first quarter for Sebring, but they did try to fight their way back, just couldn't quite finish.
Right, and that's a good rivalry between Western Reserve and Sebring, and I look for that to continue to be a good rivalry because, the former girls coach at Western Reserve is now the boys coach at Sebring. So there's and those two, it's a good similar type communities. There's a lot of good support for the teams, and I love following their games because it's how high school sports, there's a purity about that, should be, where it's small communities and sports is the big social event of the week, and I love that. There's a lot of fun covering games like that.
And Alliance girls, unfortunately, also already out of tournament action following a Saturday loss in their matchup with the Norton Panthers.
Yeah, they went to Norton on Saturday, and again, they lost 50-32 to the Panthers. Norton's a pretty good basketball team. But again, I've said this all year, I think Alliance had a good season. They won 2 games this year. I know that doesn't sound like a great season, but they made a lot of inroads. They improved a lot as a team, became competitive. The fundamentals got better. And I think they'll start to see that pay dividends next year, I think, as far as the wins and losses.
Going back to that rivalry you mentioned about with Sebring and Western Reserve, the Sebring boys beat the Western Reserve team 60-53 in Saturday, and maybe could you call that a grudge match?
Yeah, it was because just about a week or so prior to that, Sebring thought they had Western Reserve beat on a shot at the buzzer that was disallowed because the rules now state it has to be 0.3 seconds or more to be able to get a catch and shoot shot off, and the shot definitely got off before the buzzer sounded, but because of the rules, there was only 0.2 seconds left. And they had to disallow that. So going into the rematch at Western Reserve last week, Sebring used that as motivation. And they jumped on Western Reserve early and never let up and got an impressive win against the Blue Devils.
Sebring boys continuing on their track, unfortunately took a loss to Lisbon on Tuesday. But they just kind of went cold that game. They couldn't convert any of those shots.
Yeah, I covered that game. And Sebring was down by just a point at halftime, 25-24. And then the second half, they just couldn't buy a bucket. They only scored 10 points in the entire half. And there aren't too many teams that can score 10 points in a half and live to talk about it. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Sebring.
In other news, Alliance is looking at back-to-back games to wrap up their regular season before they head into tournament action, which we know they already have the title for the NBC.
Right. Alliance finished a perfect 14-0 in the NBC. Right now they're 18-2 overall. Had another great season. They will have played the Austintown Fitch Falcons when you see this video. But Thursday night, Alliance has a game against the Kirtland Hornets. They're coming down now. Alliance fans, take note. They have changed the starting time for the JV game on Thursday night. That's going to start at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. So the varsity game would start approximately 6:30 instead of 7:30. So Alliance fans, take note of that. But, Alliance has played Kirtland the last few years. That's a good game. Kirtland's a smaller school, but that was a good game last year between those two.
Also, Marlington coming off of 2 wins. They had an overtime win against Fairless on Saturday, and then a close win on Tuesday night, which was their senior night, 49-46. But in both of those games, we saw some different scorers step up.
Right. And the Dukes have had a great season. They're 16-5. Going into their last regular season game. And they've had a lot of different guys who've played key roles offensively for them this year. Obviously, Thomas Mason has has really come on to be one of the best basketball players in the NBC this season. But they've had some other players, step up. Kirk has had good games, and different players have done different things. And that's a trademark of a Nick Evanich team. That, he took a team that lost a great player in Struble from last year. And just when you think this would be a rebuilding season for them, it hasn't been. That team has gotten better and better, and here they are with one game left in the regular season, and they're 16-5. So he's done a great job with that basketball team this winter.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what the action coming up.
Yeah, this weekend on Friday night, it's an abbreviated schedule because we are at the end of the regular season for the boys team. So two of the immediate area schools, Alliance and also Sebring, by the time Friday rolls around, they will have completed their regular season. We do, however, have two immediate area games for the boys on Friday night. Marlington will go on the road to play the Canton South Wildcats. And also Friday night, West Branch will host the South Range Raiders, an independent game. And then we also have some girls basketball this weekend, Ruth. We have some potential tournament games. Thursday night, we have the West Branch girls are going to host the Poland Bulldogs in a sectional final. That's going to be at 7 o'clock. And also the Marlington girls are going to be in a sectional final tournament game on Thursday night. The Dukes will host the winner of Akron Springfield and Akron Kenmore in a game at 7 o'clock at Marlington. So we've got a lot of basketball coming up yet to play this week.
We'll have a lot of coverage for you as well, both online and in print. Stay tuned to www.the-review.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at AllRevSports. We'll see you next week.